Jubilati. So today is the 51st anniversary of the founding of MCC. Yay! Happy birthday to us. Everybody look happy. Come on. Yes. Way back in 1968, Troy Perry started something that has now spread worldwide. So I guess that is his legacy. Not a bad one, really, I suppose. A global legacy. Pretty cool. But what is the legacy of MCC? What is the legacy of what we're going to call the church? I love air quotes, don't you? The church.
Yeah.
What is or will be our legacy? Well, UFMCC, the Universal Fellowship of Metropolitan Community Churches, yeah, it's no wonder we just call it MCC, really, is it? To my mind, has a number of legacies. It's created some incredible things during its life so far. And hopefully there will be many more to come. There is the Global Justice Institute, an organisation founded by MCC that fights for people's rights globally, spearheads campaigns, and has had some great successes in gay marriage. Slightly prior to that, though, MCC founded the Human Rights Council. Now, not a lot of people know that. Which has a broader remit. That was the human rights worldwide. That is now completely separate from MCC, whereas the Global Justice Institute is still run purely by MCC staff. So, that alone is quite impressive, Human Rights Council. But MCC did not stop there. No, obviously not. We're very creative people, we like to do stuff, we like to get out there. So they founded the Ghana Institute. I mention this because my friend Darling Ghana is obviously the person's named after. An institute which was set up to help people in Ibero-America access training and support to become church leaders, to found churches, or to just follow the spiritual path. So some of the people in the poorest areas of the world can now actually access the same training and support that we do. Seems pretty worthwhile, really. Yeah. MCC also, and this is something that I've only just learned, founded the first gay synagogue in the world. Now come on, hands up, who knew that? There's always one in there. There's always one.
I know there's the first woman Jewish church.
So yes, the first gay synagogue in the world was founded by MCC, a Christian organisation. Kind of says it all, really, doesn't it? That's how inclusive and far-reaching we are. Also, MCC was responsible for the founding of World AIDS Day. Another thing which is now worldwide. And has been instrumental in changing the attitudes of many other denominations and faith groups around the world. So, there are just a few of the headline legacies that MCC has given us so far. Sorry, UFMCC has given us so far. But to me, the main legacy of MCC is its churches. It's the local churches on the ground. We have churches in about 30 odd countries, but more than that, there are oasis groups. There are people now in far-flung parts of the world that can access MCC services online, that have become online members of churches. So over the years, MCC has worked very hard to reach out to the people that have been marginalised, brutalised, and people that have been pushed to the very fringes of many different societies. Unlike many churches, MCC has put in place active programs to give these people access. Access to worship, access to training, but most importantly, access to both physical and spiritual support. In fact, in many ways, the denomination as a whole has taken God to the people. People who have felt previously abandoned by, or just deserted by the Creator. However, on a less bigger picture angle, because obviously that's the global view, I have actually visited a number of MCCs worldwide, and have found that even the ones that aren't necessarily to my taste, aren't really my thing, don't worship the way I prefer, I've still found each and every one of them to be really welcoming, really open, really accepting. Then that's the great thing about being part of an organisation that actually encourages people to be themselves. And it allows each individual church to be itself. It's not a top-down kind of, this is how we do it, these are the rules, this is what you have to look like, this is what you have to wear, this is what you have to say. Not one size fits all. A truly inclusive embodiment of Christ on earth. So, yay for us. Yeah, we are awesome. Absolutely. But how does that stack up against the legacy of what I'm calling the church?
Cleaning your soul out.
The body of Christ, as perceived by many people. It seems to be the most common thing I hear from people is that the church did this, the church said that, the church believes this, the church is against that. And I always end up saying, well, not the church I belong to. It doesn't say that, it doesn't believe that, it's not against that. People seem to think that the church is any church, all churches. Every single church is linked in some mystical way and believes the same things, does the same stuff. It seems very hard for some people to get their heads around that there are many churches, there are many theologies, many different streams coming from what should be a single source. The legacy of the church, the bigger thing, seems to be one of division. I believe that overall the Christian church has strayed away from its roots, away from its one guiding principle, which I think should have been follow Christ. After all, if you're a Christian church, surely that is what you're trying to do. And that's what being Christian means, isn't it? I mean, Christian, the word means a follower of Christ. So surely the Christian church should emulate Christ, or try to emulate Christ. Should follow his teachings, his ideals, his example. But just compare the two. Compare what you have experienced in churches with what we know of Jesus Christ. Do they match? Are churches being Christ-like? I believe some are trying to and doing great things. But many are just following on from what came before, maintaining the status quo, maintaining the thoughts, ideas, theologies, beliefs that were expounded prior to. Following dogma, which to me seems not only unchristian, after all Christ didn't really seem to follow what came before, he came along and changed the order. But also it doesn't seem to make much sense in today's world. A lot of the dogma the churches follow is founded back in Victorian times, if not before. And many churches struggle to move with the times, to change what it is they do, to meet the modern needs. Some, in today's world, their ideas and beliefs spread hatred, distrust, division. Because they have taken a line or a phrase from the Bible and matched it to their own prejudices or bias. From what I understand of Christ, he went out among people, talked to everyone, welcomed everyone, even those that his society said were unclean. the ones his upbringing would have told him he should avoid. He shouldn't have anything to do with it. He reached out equally to all of them. He included them in his ministry, loved them as much as he loved those closest to him.
Mary Magdalene.
That is the legacy, surely, that the Christian church should be offering the world. The legacy of being Christian, of loving those around us, of reaching out equally to all people, not picking and choosing, not just reaching out to those like us, but to all people. I truly believe that somewhere along the line, the church, again, you'll have to imagine the air quotes because I'm getting tired now, lost its way. It became judgmental. It became controlling. And it placed itself between people and God, making itself some sort of conduit or doorway that you had to use to talk to God. In fact, putting the priests back in charge.
Yeah.
Well, when Christ came, that was the whole idea, wasn't it? He got rid of that. I mean, surely he said, you can talk to God. You don't need priests. You don't have to turn up at a big temple, pay money.
You Catholic
Just talk to God.
That's something that go at me earlier.
The churches seem to have put power and control ahead of that and moved a long way away from Christ's original message.
And with God.
To the point where it's sometimes difficult to recognise the Christian influence in some churches. But it's not all doom and gloom. I'm sorry about that. There are more and more churches that are recognising that these days you need to be more spiritual than religious. Which, to my mind anyway, is to be guided by the Spirit, rather than the rules that have been put in place. There is a greater recognition now that a church is the people, not a pile of bricks, not a building, not even an organisation, not a set of rules, not a long list of liturgies, but the people, all of the people. After all, if you exclude anyone, then what you have is a club, a society for people like you, or people that you want to be included. And if you take that to its logical extreme, you've got a cult. A group where only certain people are allowed in, that you have to follow those rules, and if you don't, you have to leave. I cannot imagine anything further away from what I believe Jesus stood for. Further away from how things started, further away, in fact, from God. Way back in those early years, people met, they prayed, they worshipped, they built close personal relationships with God. To my mind, that's where we need to get back to. That should be the legacy of the church, the legacy of the Christian church. Which brings me nicely on to the third question. What is or will be our legacy? And I don't mean just the legacy of MCC Brighton, but of each of us individually. I personally hope that the legacy of MCC Brighton will be one of inclusion, of showing people a different view of church, one of innovation in sharing Christ's love with all people, a legacy of walking the walk. I hope we do that. I think we do that. Of being as Christ-like as we possibly can. I mean, wouldn't it be great if what people said of us was you can really see Christ in what they do? I mean, surely that's kind of the highest accolade a Christian organisation can get. MCC Brighton was once the only openly welcoming and affirming church for LGBT people in the city. Whereas today, right now, as I'm speaking, there's an event going on. That's St Mary's, the church in the picture. It's very happy. for a large number of churches who are saying they are open, welcoming and affirming of LGBT. That just shows the impact and the attitude changes that have taken place since MCC Brighton started. Way back when it was called something else, obviously. Even now, we are taking church out into the community, out of the buildings, out to where people actually are. We are sitting down with people, worshipping with people, chatting, having snacks. We love snacks. But being with the whole diversity of Brighton, leaving no one out. Now, these days, that's kind of against the norm. Being outside definitely is against the norm. We share a gospel of God's love that's for absolutely everybody, not leaving anyone out, which these days is fairly radical. Most churches have their own version of a gospel. And we offer practical support, as well as friendships, socialising, and conversations to all those we meet, which to me means the old faith in action. But a major part of MCC Brighton's legacy, the legacy so far anyway, lives in the connection with every person we have encountered. Every person who joins us for food, every person we engage with, every person we talk to. It not only encourages us to be more Christ-like, but every encounter has the opportunity to show people not just the Christ in us, but maybe just perhaps the Christ in them. I've always said that to be a Christian, all you have to do is follow Christ. There's been various sermons on that and how difficult that can be. To me, it isn't a question of theology. It isn't a question of belief. It's a question of behaviour. Of real world, right here, right now, attitudes and actions. I believe that being Christian is a life choice, not just a tick box on an application form. Who knows, maybe that will be our future legacy. Christ was a man of action. A bit of a radical, a rebel. He went against the norms of his day to reach out to people in need. He challenged things that were wrong. He spoke out against injustice. But most of all, he met people where they were. He went out to them to help. He did not ignore anyone, cross the road to avoid anyone, or refuse anyone. Now that to me speaks of true love, true faith. And for us today, it's a shining example that needs to be followed. Who knows? If enough of us follow that example, maybe the church will find its way back onto the path Christ started us on.
Yeah.
Now to me, that is definitely a legacy worth leaving.
That's well.
Thank you.